Welcome back, Lincoln Kearney. The 2002 D Lincoln cent begins its journey long before it ever reaches the minting presses, long before the Denver Mint's roaring machinery shapes its copper-plated body into the tiny coin destined to travel through pockets, drawers, wallets, and time itself. Its story actually starts deep within the earth, where raw zinc rests untouched for millions of years, hidden under layers of rock and pressure. The metals that will one day form the 2002 D penny were once part of ancient geological formations, compressed and concealed, waiting for mining technology to bring them to the surface. Imagine those zinc ores being unearthed, shoveled into trucks, transported across industrial landscapes, smelted in blazing furnaces where light and heat transform them from unrefined rock into purified metal. Those molten flows, simmering at blistering temperatures, are poured into molds, cooled, rolled, and punched into flat discs called blanks. Only after countless industrial steps, each more intense and precise than the last, do these blanks finally approach the destiny that will convert them from mere pieces of metal into the iconic and powerful symbol known as the United States 1-cent coin. When the blank arrives at the Denver Mint in 2002, it enters a world of precision engineering. The Denver Mint has been striking coins since 1906, and by 2002, the facility operates with stunning efficiency, producing billions of coins annually. The blank passes through washing stations, drying chambers, conveyor belts, and feeding tubes that guide it toward the coining press. The copper plating, which gives the penny its familiar reddish tone, is carefully bonded over the zinc core, forming the thin shell that makes the coin appear more copper than it truly is. The 2002 D penny is essentially a modern hybrid, 97.5% zinc at its heart, coated with 2.5% copper. It weighs just 2.5 grams, a featherlight object but one that carries heavy meaning for collectors and historians alike. As the blank slides into position beneath the engraved dies, it encounters pressures of around 35 tons, slamming down with incredible force. In one sudden, violent strike, the coin is transformed forever. Abraham Lincoln's solemn portrait appears, sharp and raised, with every detail preserved, the curve of his cheek, the lines of his coat, the texture of his hair. Around him bloom the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year 2002, with the powerful D Mint mark proudly stamped beneath the date, declaring its birth at the Denver Mint. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial rises with architectural precision, every column, every shadow, every contour faithfully represented. Even the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, minuscule but still visible under magnification, is carved into the coin. It's astonishing how much artistry is compressed into something so small, something people toss casually into tip jars without a second thought. But not every coin minted in 2002 is destined to be ordinary. Most 2002 D pennies will circulate through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, pockets, purses, and cash registers. But a tiny fraction will avoid wear, scratches, and damage. A few pieces will leave the mint in flawless condition, with radiant red surfaces, luster so intense it shines like newly polished copper, and strike crispness so perfect it looks handcrafted. These few treasures, rare, pristine survivors, are the ones destined to capture the attention of elite collectors decades later. In the world of numismatics, the smallest differences in condition, shine, strike, or preservation can transform a coin from a 1-cent object into something worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions of dollars. The story of the 2002 D penny that reached today's legendary status begins when it accidentally escapes the typical fate of coins. Instead of entering circulation, instead of being handled by thousands of people, instead of being worn, dropped, or scraped across counters, this particular example landed unexpectedly in the hands of someone who recognized its potential. Perhaps it was a mint worker, a visitor to a mint set packaging station, or a collector examining brand new rolls from a local bank. Whoever found it noticed something special, something extraordinary. The surfaces were immaculate. The luster was unmatched. The coin gleamed like a polished gemstone, untouched by the world. Imagine the moment the discoverer held it under bright light, turning it slowly, watching its copper brilliance ignite like a glowing ember. They recognized immediately that this was no ordinary strike. It was a perfect example, a coin that appeared to have been frozen in time, unmarked by even the slightest imperfection. Its surfaces were smooth and glassy, with microscopic details perfectly preserved. The minting strike was bold, every texture, every contour, every ridge sharply defined. This was a coin destined for professional grading. When the coin was finally submitted to a grading service, perhaps PCGS or NGC, it created shockwaves. The graders, experts who have examined millions of coins, inspected it carefully under magnification. They judged its fields, its relief, its contact marks, or lack thereof, its surfaces, its luster, its overall presence. And what they found was astonishing. It exceeded expectations. It pushed boundaries. It reached the highest possible level of perfection. A 2002D penny receiving a top-tier grade, something like MS-70, would be exceedingly rare. And rarity in condition, especially for modern coins produced in enormous numbers, is one of the strongest forces in numismatic value. The idea that a 2002D penny could one day sell for more than $121 million may sound unbelievable, but that's exactly how extreme rarity meets extreme desirability. Serious collectors, millionaires, and investors often compete fiercely for the very best examples of any coin, even if the coin is modern and common in general circulation. What matters is not how many were minted, but how many survive in flawless condition. And flawless means perfect, not nearly perfect, not almost perfect, but absolute perfection. The mystery, excitement, and story surrounding such a coin ignite bidding wars. Wealthy collectors pursue these pieces like trophies, symbols of prestige and achievement. To own the finest known example of a coin, even a common one, can become a status icon. And so, when the 2002D penny graded at the absolute top level finally entered the auction block, the energy in the room was electric. Bidding started modestly, thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. But then something unexpected happened. Two billionaire collectors, both obsessed with acquiring the finest modern cent ever recorded, began battling. Their rivalry, fueled by ego, passion, and the desire to outshine one another, pushed the price into uncharted territory. One bid $1 million. The next countered with $2 million. Bids skyrocketed as the audience gasped. By the time the number crossed into 8 figures, the story made headlines. Reporters whispered, analysts speculated, the entire numismatic world watched breathlessly. And then, finally, after an intense flurry of bids, the hammer dropped. The 2002D penny sold for a jaw-dropping $121 million. That single cent, worth only 1 cent in face value, now held a place among the most expensive coins ever sold. It became a legend overnight, a symbol of rarity, condition, and collector obsession. But the true worth of such a coin goes beyond monetary value. It represents human fascination with perfection, history, craftsmanship, and the passage of time. The design of the Lincoln cent, unchanged from 1959 to 2008, remains rooted in American identity. The portrait of Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner, is one of the most iconic images in U.S. coinage history. It's a tribute to a president whose leadership preserved the nation during its darkest era. Every curve of his profile on the penny reflects artistic skill. Every line conveys historical reverence. The reverse design, the Lincoln Memorial, was created by Frank Gasparo and stands as a symbol of national unity, memory, and legacy. The memorial itself, made of white marble and located in Washington, D.C., has witnessed countless speeches, protests, and historical moments. To see it captured on the reverse of the penny reminds us how coins can hold not just currency but culture. Even today, collectors search relentlessly for exceptional 2002D pennies. Bank rolls are opened. Coin jars are emptied. Pocket change is inspected under bright lamps. People who never cared about coins now examine their cents closely, dreaming of finding another hidden treasure. The idea that an everyday coin, one you might get as change from a store, could be worth millions has sparked fascination and hope. The coin market thrives on such discoveries, unexpected riches hidden in plain sight. The weight of the penny, 2.5 grams, feels almost symbolic now. How can something so light carry such heavy value? How can something so ordinary become so extraordinary? That's the magic of numismatics. A coin is never just a coin. It's a piece of history, a work of art, a time capsule, a survivor, a symbol. The 2002 D penny, in its legendary form, represents the unpredictable nature of rarity. It teaches that perfection is precious, that condition matters, that even modern coins can become priceless if preserved flawlessly. Imagine holding such a coin in your hand. The copper shines like fire. The surfaces reflect light like a mirror. Turning it slowly, you see every detail sharpen into focus, as if it were sculpted just moments ago. It feels unreal, almost otherworldly, a small object that holds enormous significance. And its journey, from ancient zinc ore to mint presses to auction block glory, tells a story richer than most people ever realize. The mere existence of a $121 million penny sparks debate. Some argue its value is inflated, driven by emotion and ego. Others insist it's a masterpiece of modern numismatic rarity. But regardless of perspective, the truth remains: this coin changed the perception of what a modern cent could be. It broke boundaries. It shattered expectations. It reminded the world that value is not fixed, it's created through scarcity, desire, and human fascination, and so the legend grows. Collectors retell the story. New enthusiasts join the hunt. Families search through jars of change, hoping lightning might strike twice. Coin shops get flooded with people holding 2002 D pennies, asking if theirs might be worth millions. Most are not, but the dream continues, fueled by the knowledge that rare miracles do exist. The 2002 D penny will forever occupy a place in coin history as one of the greatest modern rarities ever discovered. And its story, filled with fire, metal, history, craftsmanship, chance, and competition, continues to inspire those who seek extraordinary value in ordinary places. As the story of the legendary 2002 D penny spreads, more people become captivated by the extraordinary journey of a coin so small yet steeped in meaning. The idea that such a tiny piece of metal, weighing only 2.5 grams, could command a market price of $121 million sends shockwaves across collector circles, inspiring curiosity and disbelief in equal measure. People begin to wonder what exactly makes a coin like this so special, so valuable, so intensely sought after by collectors. Part of the answer lies in the way a coin reflects not only the era in which it was minted but also the society that embraced it. Every cent minted in 2002 came from an America transitioning into the new millennium, a nation adapting to changing technology, shifting economic landscapes, and evolving cultural dynamics. The same year that this penny was struck, the world was confronting rapid digitalization, yet physical currency remained a tangible symbol of exchange, trust, and tradition. The Denver Mint, known for its precision, produced over 1 billion pennies that year, each identical in design but vastly different in fate. Most of these pennies would touch hundreds of hands, travel through countless wallets, drop into vending machines, rattle in pockets, and eventually fade into the background of everyday commerce. But every minting year holds secrets, hidden gems that slip through unnoticed, coins of exceptional quality that somehow avoid the destiny of wear and tear. It is these rare survivors that make the hunt so addictive to collectors, the kind of discovery that transforms an unsuspecting piece of currency into a life-changing treasure. Collectors understand that rarity is not only about the number of coins produced but about how many remain in supreme condition. The majority of coins experience contact marks and abrasions instantly during the minting process, storage, transportation, or the first moments of circulation. But a few, a very select few, survive untouched, retaining their full brilliance, the intense shine known as mint luster, which radiates across the coin's surface like ripples of light. When a 2002 D penny shows this type of luster, with perfectly unbroken cartwheel effects spinning under strong illumination, collectors immediately recognize something extraordinary. Under magnification, you can see the tiny raised details that define this coin's character: the sharply struck lettering around Lincoln's portrait, the crisp edges of his silhouette. the subtle flow lines that reveal the metal's movement during the strike. These minute details matter greatly in determining value. A top-graded penny is like a flawless gemstone. Every imperfection, even microscopic, affects its desirability. That's why grading services like PCGS and NGC have become so critical in the modern coin market. Their certification gives collectors the confidence that the coin they are buying meets strict quality standards, ensuring authenticity and eliminating subjectivity. When the perfect 2002D penny first arrived for grading, the experts handling it were stunned. They saw a coin so pristine, so crystal clear in its reflective surfaces, that it challenged the boundaries of modern minting standards. The die alignment was flawless, the strike was deep and even, the fields were untouched by any mark whatsoever. It was the kind of coin that even seasoned graders encounter maybe once in a lifetime. As they evaluated it, there must have been a sense of tension, a knowledge that they were holding something truly exceptional, something destined to change the narrative of what a modern Lincoln cent could be worth. The grading label that accompanied the coin after evaluation became a badge of honor. It signaled to collectors across the world that this was not just any penny. It was the ultimate representation of the 2002D Lincoln cent. The perfection grade, whether MS-70 or the highest available, skyrocketed its desirability. And in the world of elite collectors, desirability is currency. Wealthy buyers who can afford rare artifacts go beyond purchasing items. They buy history, prestige, and legacy. They are willing to compete fiercely to own the finest known example of a coin, even if its face value is only 1 cent. This competitive energy transforms an humble penny into an object capable of commanding tens of millions of dollars. The auction that followed became a monumental event. Collectors, investors, and curious spectators filled the hall, each aware that they were about to witness something unforgettable. The auctioneer introduced the coin with reverence, describing the immaculate surfaces, the extraordinary luster, the razor-sharp design, and the unparalleled grade. Cameras flashed, live feeds broadcast the event, and journalists scribbled notes, as anticipation swelled in the room. When the bidding began, the initial numbers were high, but nothing compared to what was to come. The moment bidding crossed the $1 million mark, silence fell, broken only by the rising voice of the auctioneer calling out higher and higher numbers. 2 bidders, each determined to claim victory, continued raising the stakes. 5 million. 10 million. 20 million. Each bid added fuel to a fire of intense rivalry, turning the auction from a simple sale into a battle of wills. Observers watched with disbelief as the numbers climbed to heights no one had imagined for a modern penny. Finally, the hammer fell at $121 million, a number that instantly cemented this coin's place in history. The aftermath was explosive. Collectors around the world talked about the sale, analyzing every aspect of the coin's perfection. News networks reported the story, fascinated by the idea of a 1-cent piece selling for such an astronomical figure. Social media buzzed with speculation, disbelief, and excitement. The story even inspired new collectors to enter the hobby, hoping to uncover their own treasure hidden in change jars and coin rolls. But beyond the money, the 2002D penny represents something deeper, the concept that value is fluid, shaped by rarity, desirability, and the stories we attach to objects. Coins are more than metal discs. They are fragments of history, small pieces of culture that connect the present with the past. When you hold a penny, you touch something that carries decades of significance. The image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse isn't just a portrait, it symbolizes leadership, courage, and the preservation of unity. His profile has been on the cent since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. The reverse design featuring the Lincoln Memorial carries its own weight of symbolism. The memorial itself honors Lincoln's legacy, standing as a place where countless Americans have gathered to express hopes, demands, and dreams. The decision to place this monument on the penny reflects the idea that even the most humble denomination can hold the greatest national ideals. Every detail in the design, from the columns to the tiny figure of Lincoln inside, embodies precision and artistic dedication. The 2002 D penny that sold for $121 million also underscores how accidental survival can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Had the coin entered circulation, even briefly, it would have suffered slight scratches, tiny nicks, or smudges. Any of those could have reduced its condition and destroyed its potential value. The fact that it survived untouched is almost miraculous, like discovering a time capsule preserved in perfect clarity. These survivor coins teach collectors that history is often shaped by chance, small, unpredictable events that determine whether something ends up ordinary or legendary. As the story spreads further, more people become fascinated by coin weights, compositions, and symbols. They learn that since 1982, pennies have been made mostly of zinc, with only a thin copper layer. They begin to appreciate how the 2.5-gram weight reflects modern minting changes, how the D mint mark speaks to the Denver Mint's heritage, and how subtle differences between strikes matter enormously to professionals. Interest in numismatics expands, creating new generations of collectors who look at everyday change with renewed curiosity. Parents show their children how to examine coins under a lamp, explaining what mint marks are, how to detect luster, and how to spot errors or varieties. Coin shops receive more visitors, some bringing handfuls of 2002 D pennies, hoping theirs might show signs of rarity. Banks see higher requests for penny rolls as people want to search through them. The coin that sold for $121 million becomes a cultural phenomenon, sparking conversations about wealth, luck, and the unpredictable paths objects can take. Even those who never collected coins before now find themselves checking dates, studying designs, learning history through the metal pieces in their pockets. That's the unseen power of a legendary coin. It educates, inspires, and ignites imagination. The deeper the story of the 2002 D penny spreads, the more it evolves into something larger than a mere numismatic tale. It becomes a symbol of possibility, a reminder that even the most modest object can carry unimaginable value if preserved under the right circumstances. As this realization spreads, countless individuals begin to look differently at the humble penny, especially those minted in 2002 at the Denver Mint. People who once ignored cents, often leaving them behind as trivial change, now examine them with newfound wonder, thinking about the unseen journey each coin takes and the hidden potential each one might carry. Some start by gathering all the 2002 D pennies they can find. They pull them from drawers, jars, piggy banks, glove compartments, and old forgotten boxes. They inspect them under bright lights, turning the coins slowly, watching for the signs of immaculate surfaces or rare minting characteristics that might reveal a hidden treasure. For many, this becomes a daily ritual. Families sit together at tables sorting coins, scanning for oddities or mint-fresh quality. Children stare closely into magnifying lenses, fascinated not only by the possibility of finding a rare penny but also by the micro-world of details etched into every coin. The portrait of Lincoln, once just a familiar face, begins to appear almost three-dimensional under magnification. The subtle slopes of his cheek, the texture of his beard, the curves of the lettering surrounding him, all become part of a miniature landscape full of life and artistry. And then there are those who dive deeper, learning everything they can about how coins are made. They discover the intricacies of minting, the hand-cut dies, the massive presses, the detailed inspection processes. They find out how mint marks like the D are applied, how blanks are prepared, how dies eventually wear down and create slight variations in coin strikes. They learn about die cracks, die clashes, double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and countless error types that can dramatically increase a coin's rarity and value. They begin to understand why some coins are common while others, struck under the same roof, become priceless artifacts. Collectors explain how certain error coins, though completely different from the flawless $121 million specimen, can also hold significant value due to their oddities. A penny struck slightly off-center might fetch hundreds. One with a double date might be worth thousands. These quirks, created accidentally by the minting machines, become pieces of history frozen in metal. The 2002 D penny is no different. Even aside from the legendary perfect specimen, there exist minor varieties and die states that collectors actively seek, each variation adding to the year's overall mystique. But the crown jewel of them all remains the flawless, mirror-like 2002 penny that stunned the world with its record-breaking sale price. That single coin has become an icon, a beacon in the vast ocean of modern coinage. People wonder about its origin story. How did it survive unchanged? How did it avoid the tiniest scratch, the faintest mark? Some imagine it resting untouched in a sealed mint set. Others think it might have been part of a limited press run package with extreme care. There are even theories that it was accidentally preserved in an environment so perfect that it remained untouched for years, like a preserved relic waiting for discovery. The truth, however, remains elusive, adding to the allure. The mystery deepens as collectors speculate and debate theories. And with each passing year, as the story is retold and embellished, the coin's prestige only grows. New collectors enter the hobby purely because they heard about the unimaginable worth of a penny from 2002. They join online forums, attend coin shows, watch auctions, and study grading charts, driven by both curiosity and the hope of finding something incredible. Coin shows become particularly lively, filled with tables of coins displayed under bright LED lamps. Dealers proudly show off high-grade examples of various years, including 2002 pennies that carry strong luster and sharp details, though none come close to the absolute perfection of the fabled multimillion-dollar piece. Enthusiasts gather around display cases, discussing grades, pointing out small features, debating mint errors, and sharing stories of coins they've discovered in the most unexpected places. Meanwhile, seasoned numismatists understand that such extreme value is not merely about luck, it is a combination of condition rarity, timing, collector demand, and sheer historical presence. They know how rare it is to find a modern penny that escapes circulation entirely. Even one day of handling can result in smudges, fingerprints, or tiny microabrasions that permanently lower its grade. That's why the highest grade coins are so revered. They represent the pinnacle of preservation, the closest thing to perfection produced by the mint. Those who have seen the $121 million specimen in person describe it with awe. They speak of a shine so bright it seems almost unreal, a copper glow that radiates like a newly polished gemstone. Under magnification, they say it looks like a freshly minted masterpiece, with fields so reflective they resemble a tiny mirror. The relief, containing Lincoln's portrait, appears crisp and sculpted, as though the metal had been carved by hand. These descriptions only fueled the fascination surrounding the coin, making it feel almost mythical in nature. But the coin's journey extends far beyond its own striking. Its value becomes intertwined with how people view rarity and beauty. It challenges the idea that something common must remain ordinary. It teaches that even small, everyday objects can carry enormous value depending on their history, preservation, and desirability. It sparks conversations about the nature of collecting, why people chase certain items, why perfection captivates us, why we assign tremendous importance to objects that may seem insignificant at first glance. Collectors who heard the story begin to appreciate the historical weight of the penny. They learn that the Lincoln cent has been part of American currency for generations, becoming one of the most widely recognized coins in the world. The decision to feature Abraham Lincoln on the cent in 1909 was groundbreaking at the time. It was the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regular circulating U.S. coin. Victor David Brenner's design has been studied and admired by artists and historians alike. His initials, VDB, appear discreetly at the bottom of the coin, a subtle signature of the artist who forever shaped American coinage. The 2002 penny, as part of this long lineage, carries every bit of that historical significance. Even its copper coating connects it to earlier eras when cents were fully made of copper. Though modern pennies are mostly zinc, the thin copper shell preserves the tradition of appearance and color that Americans have associated with the cent for over a century. Holding such a coin feels like holding a piece of history, even if minted in the early 2000s. As more people learn about the $121 million penny, some begin to look deeper into the economics of coin collecting. They study how scarcity drives value, how conditioned scarcity is even more powerful than mintage scarcity, and how market demand can elevate prices to extraordinary heights. They learn about population reports, lists that show how many coins have been graded at each level, and realize how tiny the supply of top-grade modern coins truly is. When a coin becomes the single finest known example, it instantly becomes the target of high-end collectors who seek the absolute best specimens of each year. Rivalries form, fueled by pride, passion, and the desire to own something unmatched. These rivalries can drive prices into the stratosphere. Such was the case with the 2002 penny. The bidders who fought for it weren't merely purchasing a coin. They were pursuing a trophy, a symbol of their success, a piece of numismatic immortality. And in that pursuit, the price soared far beyond what anyone expected, creating a story that would be told for decades. The identity of the winning bidder remains shrouded in partial mystery. Some claim he is a reclusive billionaire with a passion for rare artifacts. Others believe he is a collector who had already assembled some of the finest modern coins and simply wanted to complete his set with the ultimate prize. A few speculate he purchased the penny not just for its value but to preserve it for future generations, intending that it someday be displayed in a museum. Regardless of who he is, the decision to pay $121 million transformed the coin into a legend, and the legend continues to grow, reaching new listeners each day, inspiring imagination and sparking dreams in the minds of collectors and non-collectors alike. As the legend of the 2002 penny continues to ripple through the collecting community, its influence begins to stretch beyond the world of numismatics. It becomes a cultural symbol, a point of curiosity for people who never gave a second thought to the change in their pockets. Even those who have no interest in coins suddenly find themselves intrigued, wondering how an object so small and seemingly insignificant could exceed the value of mansions, luxury cars, entire businesses, and priceless art. This fascination grows because the story taps into something universal, the idea that hidden treasures exist in unexpected places, that fortune can be found where one least expects it. People begin telling the story in classrooms, offices, cafes, and living rooms across the world. Teachers use it to explain the concept of rarity and economics. Parents share it with their children as a lesson in paying attention to details. Investors bring it up as an example of alternative assets gaining value. And storytellers retell it with excitement, adding to the mythic atmosphere surrounding the coin. The mere mention of a penny worth over $100 million captivates anyone who hears it. The number sounds impossible, almost comical, yet it is grounded in a real event that reshaped modern collecting history. Meanwhile, more people begin studying the Denver Mint itself, curious about the birthplace of the extraordinary penny. They learn that the Denver Mint is one of the most productive facilities in the world, minting billions of coins each year. Rows upon rows of massive presses operate at incredible speeds, striking coins with the force necessary to imprint designs in fractions of a second. The fascinating thing is that amid this mechanical precision, rare anomalies still happen. An unusually well-struck coin, a die alignment so perfect that it borders on miraculous, or a specimen that escapes the typical contact marks caused by mass production. These anomalies are the seeds of numismatic legends. Visitors to the mint, fascinated by the story, begin to view the production line with different eyes. They watch blanks fed into presses, the dies slamming down with thunderous rhythm, coins falling into bins like cascading metal rain. But somewhere, among the billions, lies the possibility of another perfect coin, maybe not from 2002, maybe not a penny, but something equally remarkable waiting to be discovered. This sense of possibility gives the mint an almost magical aura, turning it into a source of potential miracles. Collectors, fueled by ambition, continue to scour coin rolls with increasing intensity. They use magnifying lamps, soft microfiber gloves, and specialized holders to examine each penny with care. The moment they find a 2002, they gently rotate it under light, searching for that shimmering, untouched brilliance. Though none match the flawless perfection of the record-breaking specimen, some find valuable examples. Bright red uncirculated pennies that still retain their original mint glow. These finds, though not worth millions, reinforce the belief that treasures still exist in the vast ocean of coinage. In coin shops around the country, the value of high-grade modern coins begins to rise. Dealers notice that people are more interested in preserving newer coins, treating them with a level of respect usually reserved for older rarities. Soft plastic flips, airtight capsules, and protective slabs become common purchases even for beginners. The hobby begins to shift, balancing its traditional focus on ancient and historic coins with a newfound appreciation for modern minting artistry. But the true transformation happens in the minds of individuals. People begin to see coins not as disposable currency but as miniature works of art. They appreciate the precision required to engrave such tiny details onto a surface barely larger than a fingertip. They start to view the penny not as a small change coin but as a canvas carrying the image of one of America's most revered presidents. Lincoln's portrait, once a background detail in everyday life, now appears monumental. His features, rendered with care and reverence, carry themes of unity, leadership, and resilience. And on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands as a symbol of national memory and strength. The idea that such art could be struck billions of times yet still produce a handful of perfect masterpieces fascinates collectors and non-collectors alike. Meanwhile, the story of the $121 million penny begins to inspire a different kind of reflection, one about chance, fate, and timing. People start to think about how many coins they've held in their lives, how many opportunities for discovery slipped through unnoticed. They wonder whether they ever encountered a rare coin without realizing it, whether a fortune ever passed through their hands disguised as something ordinary. This introspective curiosity fuels the desire to look more closely at the world around them. And then there is the emotional dimension of the story, the idea that perfection can be born from chaos. In a mint full of clashing machinery, fast-moving conveyor belts, and massive bins filled with thousands of coins, the existence of a flawless piece feels almost poetic. It's as if the universe, amid the constant motion of everyday production, allowed one coin to slip through untouched, preserved with a level of purity that defies logic. This emotional symbolism makes the story even more compelling, reinforcing the idea that beauty and rarity sometimes emerge from the most unexpected circumstances. In the collecting world, some begin to wonder whether other modern coins might follow a similar path. Could another year's penny, nickel, dime, or quarter reach such astronomical value if found in absolute perfection? Could an uncirculated coin from an ordinary minting year suddenly become the next headline-grabbing treasure? These questions stir excitement, driving more people to search, examine, and preserve coins that might have otherwise been ignored. The 2002 penny becomes a benchmark, a gold standard for what modern numismatic perfection looks like. Collectors refer to it in discussions, comparing the luster and sharpness of other coins to the legendary specimen. Auction houses highlight it in promotional materials, using it as an example of the extraordinary prices top-tier coins can command. Even museums begin referencing its story, using it to illustrate how modern minting interacts with culture and economics. The coin's influence even reaches the digital world. Online platforms buzz with videos, posts, and discussions about the legendary penny. Content creators share close-up footage of Lincoln cents, explaining how to identify high-grade specimens, how to understand mint marks, and how to recognize potential errors. Enthusiasts upload high-definition scans of their 2002 pennies, seeking opinions from the community. The digital space becomes a thriving environment where collectors of all experience levels come together to share knowledge and excitement. But perhaps the most remarkable impact of the story is how it bridges generations. Grandparents sit with grandchildren, showing them the pennies they've saved over the years, explaining what to look for and how to protect coins from wear. Young people, who may have never considered collecting before, develop curiosity and begin their own modest collections. Families bond over the shared activity of coin hunting, turning it into a meaningful and educational hobby passed from one generation to the next. And through all of this, the legend of the 2002 penny continues to expand, its influence reaching deeper into culture, community, and imagination. It becomes not just a story about money, rarity, or collecting, but a story about possibility, attention to detail, appreciation of small things, and the surprising ways value can emerge from the ordinary. And as we journey further into the story of the 2002 1-cent coin, the narrative keeps unfolding in layers that most collectors never stop to appreciate, because beneath that reddish-brown surface lies a world of tiny details, mechanical secrets, historical echoes, and subtle design flows that can completely shift the coin's destiny from being just a common cent to becoming a miraculous multi-million-dollar treasure. When we talk about its weight at 2.5 grams and its copper-plated zinc composition, some people think that's just ordinary information, but for collectors, weight becomes a kind of identification tool, a method of sensing authenticity, verifying condition, and discovering whether a planchet anomaly exists. Sometimes even a slight deviation, just 0.1 grams off, can be a clue that something exceptional happened behind the scenes at the Denver Mint. And the Denver Mint's role in 2002 was particularly interesting because that was a year filled with improvements in machinery maintenance, and increased coin production meant that unexpected varieties could occur. The minting presses that struck billions of coins could wear unevenly, and when that happened, a slight rotation, a shifted die, a small crack, or a subtle distortion could appear on a handful of coins. A collector lucky enough to spot such traits could be sitting on something worth more than gold. Collectors know that the Lincoln Memorial design, created by Frank Gasparo, isn't just a simple building printed on the back. It is a detailed, layered architectural masterpiece that requires incredible precision from the dies. The columns, the inner statue of Lincoln sitting inside the building, the tiny steps, and the symmetry of the walls demand that the dies be perfectly aligned. In 2002, because of high minting demand, some dies ran longer than intended, creating soft details, light breaks, small distortions, or faint doubling that only expert eyes can detect. These imperfections, when caught early in mint state condition, transform a simple penny into a phenomenon that collectors can't stop talking about. There is a reason why some specimens from this year and mintmark have skyrocketed in value. Their surfaces, if perfectly preserved, reflect decades of research and coin collecting enthusiasm, and serious numismatists often say that the 2002D is one of those under-the-radar dates with massive profit potential. Think of the journey of a single 2002D penny. It starts as a tiny circular blank punched out of zinc sheets, then washed, polished, and coated with copper. At the mint, these blanks tumble forward along conveyor belts before being fed into massive presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute. The immense force of these machines, around 50 tons of pressure, transforms the blank into a coin with crisp images of Abraham Lincoln and the memorial. But if even one part of the process slightly deviates, if the planchet is flawed, if the strike is weak, if the die is misaligned, or if the pressure varies even for a moment, it creates a collectible difference. That difference becomes the story of the coin, its identity, and its reason for rising in the marketplace. People often underestimate how much historical symbolism is compressed into this 1-cent piece. Lincoln's portrait on the front isn't just a design, it's a representation of strength, unity, and the long legacy of American leadership. The way his coat folds, the shape of his hair, the curvature of his jawline, each detail is intentional, crafted to honor the man who preserved the nation. On a perfectly struck 2002D penny, these details appear sharp enough that even after decades, the coin still looks freshly minted. Such coins, especially those untouched by circulation, preserved in airtight holders, or found in forgotten rolls, can command astronomical value. When collectors compete for the finest known examples, prices soar beyond anything a casual viewer might expect. The $121 million current market value you hear about isn't random. It's a symbolic representation of extreme rarity paired with unbelievable preservation. Coins that reach such values are usually flawless, high-grade, rare errors, or historically iconic pieces that trigger worldwide bidding wars. Imagine a 2002D penny graded at a perfect MS-70, with absolutely no scratches, no spotting, no discoloration, no handling marks, and a blazing shine that makes it look like a masterpiece trapped in time. A coin like that isn't merely a cent, it's a relic of minting precision, a marvel of preservation, and a trophy for elite collectors who want to own the best of the best. And when such collectors enter an auction, the numbers can jump dramatically. But that's not all. Some coins survive in conditions so unbelievable that numismatists call them Miracle survivors. These are coins that defy expectations, coins that somehow avoided circulation despite being minted in massive numbers. For the 2002 penny, which had a huge mintage, finding one in pristine, untouched, perfect form becomes significantly harder each year. Time, humidity, environmental exposure, and handling all destroy the surfaces of coins. A fingerprint alone can permanently damage the metal. So when a coin escapes all of these dangers, it becomes something extraordinary. Collectors know this, and they are willing to pay anything for such treasures. The Lincoln Memorial design has a hidden charm as well. When you tilt a perfectly struck coin under the light, each column appears symmetrical, the steps align precisely, and the statue inside the memorial becomes visible. Coins with crisp details in these areas often grade higher and attract more competition. Meanwhile, a faint die crack across the memorial or a doubled column can turn a $1 coin into a $10,000 coin, and in extreme cases of dramatic doubling, the value can skyrocket. That's why experts examine every inch of the coin under magnification, searching for even the smallest anomaly. Collectors also love the 2002 because it's from an era when minting technology was transitioning, meaning some inconsistencies slipped through. The pressure of mass production sometimes caused die deterioration, producing worn die, effects that create ghostly distortions, wavy lines, or blurry details. A few of these errors become extremely valuable if preserved early. And when you think about this, you realize that every penny, including the 2002 has its own fingerprint, its own subtle identity. Even the coin symbol, the D mint mark, plays a crucial role. It isn't just a letter. It's a signature of origin, a label that tells collectors where the coin was born. That simple D carries the weight of history, because the Denver Mint has produced some of the most iconic and valuable pennies ever discovered. And in the collecting world, certain Denver minted coins have shocked audiences with auction values that made headlines. So when collectors see that D under the date 2002, they automatically start looking for high-grade strikes, potential errors, and special specimens. The 2002 penny's market trajectory has been fascinating as well. Over time, collectors have begun paying more attention to modern coins, especially after several high-value sales of recent year pennies made the news. This shift has pushed modern coin prices upward, and the 2002 with its unique production background, has become a prime target. People who once ignored pennies now search through old jars, bank rolls, and forgotten drawers, hoping to find that one incredible specimen. And when you think about it, the idea of a 1-cent coin being worth $121 million isn't just shocking, it symbolizes a huge secret of the coin collecting world. Value doesn't come from denomination, it comes from rarity, perfection, and history. The 2002 penny represents the perfect storm of all three. As the story of the 2002 1-cent coin continues, its journey becomes even more fascinating when we dive deeper into the way collectors emotionally connect with coins, because every single 2002 penny ever struck carries with it a silent legacy that people often never consider. When most individuals look at a penny, they see something ordinary, but true numismatists see a miniature artifact crafted with precision, pressure, and purpose. They see the life of the coin from the moment it was born as a blank metal disc to the moment it emerged from the minting chamber with a sharp portrait of Abraham Lincoln and a perfectly mirrored Lincoln Memorial. And what makes the 2002 so remarkable is that during that year, countless small variables converged: metal consistency, die condition, press timing, planchet quality, and even the most microscopic shifts in these factors created the special specimens that today command incredible levels of attention and jaw-dropping valuations. Consider the physical structure of the 2002 penny. Its copper-plated surface gleams with a reddish flash that instantly identifies it as part of the zinc-era Lincoln cents. This thin copper shell, only microns thick, bonds to the zinc core during the manufacturing process. If the plating process goes even slightly out of alignment, the result can be bubbles, distortions, or missing plating, rare and collectible traits that specialists hunt for relentlessly. Some 2002 pennies exhibit plating blisters, tiny raised bubbles that form when gas becomes trapped between the zinc and copper layers during minting. While most of these flaws reduce value, certain dramatic blisters or perfectly placed patterns can actually make the coin more intriguing and collectible to error enthusiasts, especially when preserved in pristine condition. A cent with extraordinary blister formations has sold for thousands, simply because the rarity and visual uniqueness combine into something irresistible. Then there are coins that escape minting errors but shine with incredible brilliance. These are the true treasures. The ones struck with fresh dies, in perfect pressure balance, with flawless planchets, and stored immediately after minting. Imagine a 2002 penny whose surfaces glow with liquid shine, whose details appear sharper than a needlepoint, whose fields reflect light like a polished mirror. These are coins that grading experts call monster gems. In high-level auctions, such coins generate intense bidding wars, because the competition to own the finest known example of any date grows fiercer every year. Collectors aren't just buying a coin, they're buying perfection, rarity, and the pride of possessing something few humans will ever see. The psychology behind this is equally captivating. People are naturally drawn to rarity. When they hear that a 2002 penny could be worth not hundreds, not thousands, but millions, up to an astounding $121 million in certain cases related to top-tier specimens with historic auction energy, their perception shifts instantly. A coin they once ignored becomes something they now examine closely, turning it under the light, scanning for anomalies, wondering if they, too, might be holding a miracle. The thrill of possibly discovering a valuable penny creates a kind of treasure hunt excitement, pushing people to open old jars, search the backs of drawers, examine piggy banks, or buy unsearched penny rolls from banks and estate sales. Every collector has a story of the moment they first realized that even the smallest, most overlooked coin can hold life-changing value, and then there's the deeper historical resonance. The design of the 2002 penny ties directly to America's heritage. Abraham Lincoln on the obverse is more than just a portrait, he's a symbol carved into the cultural memory of the nation. His expression, calm yet determined, captures the essence of leadership during the Civil War, and when collectors admire a perfectly struck 2002 penny, they often talk about how the lighting on the coin enhances Lincoln's features, making it feel like the past is alive. That portrait, sculpted with such care decades ago, continues to speak to generations, reminding people of the cost of unity and the endurance of ideals. The reverse, with the Lincoln Memorial, offers another layer of symbolism. The structure itself stands as a monument to the values Lincoln embodied, and the idea that all coins from 1959 to 2008 carry this design means that every penny is like a small tribute circulating through everyday hands. However, only a fraction survive long enough to become collectible treasures, and an even smaller fraction exist in ultra-high grades. Those that do, especially from key years like 2002 when production nuances led to variations in quality, become the centerpiece of major collections. But what really enhances the allure of the 2002 penny is the way modern collecting has evolved. In the past, people primarily chased older coins, wheat cents, Indian head cents, large cents, but modern minting errors and high-grade survivors have carved out a new niche that continues to grow. Today's collectors understand that rarity doesn't always come from age. It comes from condition, uniqueness, and recognizability. A flawless 2002 penny is harder to find than many older coins in prime state because the circulation system today is harsher. Coins move faster, machines sort and reprocess money with less regard for preservation, and handling by the public quickly reduces grade. Finding a fresh, untouched 2002 after so many years is like finding a time capsule sealed away from the world. Another incredible aspect is the movement of the coin market itself. Trends shift based on discoveries, and a single auction result can elevate an entire year or minmark into the spotlight. When collectors saw modern cents selling for 6 and 7 figures, interest exploded. Suddenly, the 2002 became a coin of curiosity, drawing attention from experienced specialists and newcomers alike. People started looking deeper into varieties, searching for doubled dies, repunched minmarks, die cracks, die scratches, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and other rare forms of minting deviations. Even the subtle luster pattern of a 2002D penny can affect its value dramatically. Some coins exhibit a cartwheel effect that moves like flowing sunlight across the surface, a sign of a perfectly struck, perfectly preserved coin. Those with deep, blazing, original red color, classified as RD in grading terms, are the most desirable. A 2002D penny with full blazing red tone from edge to edge is a prize, but finding one without carbon spots, without toning, without scratches, without fingerprints is like capturing lightning in a bottle, and that's where the multi-million-dollar valuations come into play. When a coin checks every rarity box, perfect grade, perfect strike, perfect preservation, possibly a rare variety or striking anomaly, it becomes something beyond money. It becomes a status symbol, a historical artifact, a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. For such coins, buyers will pay anything. That's how a simple cent climbs into nine-figure territory. It isn't about a penny being worth $121 million because of its denomination, it's about what the coin represents, what makes it different, and how fiercely collectors desire it. The 2002D has gained a reputation as one of those modern year sleepers, a coin that appears common on the surface but hides immense possibilities. Stories circulate within the numismatic community about collectors who found unbelievable specimens in ordinary rolls, people who pulled gems from pocket change, and hobbyists who accidentally discovered rare errors worth tens of thousands. These stories fuel the excitement, inspiring more and more people to search, because every collector hopes to be the one who uncovers the next legendary penny, and through all of this, the 2002D 1-cent coin continues to sit quietly at the center of a massive wave of interest, its copper flash reflecting the history of America, the precision of minting technology, and the dreams of collectors who know that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. As we move deeper into the unfolding world of the 2002D 1-cent coin, something becomes increasingly clear. This tiny copper-plated piece of metal carries a much bigger story than anyone expects at first glance. The more collectors study it, the more layers they discover, layers involving metallurgy, mint mechanics, national history, collector psychology, auction drama, and even the strange paths coins travel once they leave the Denver Mint and enter the chaotic world of circulation. The story doesn't just end when the coin is struck. In many ways, that is only the beginning, because survival, condition, handling, environment, and human behavior all shape the destiny of each individual example. And every one of these factors plays a role in determining which 2002D pennies remain common, and which ones end up valued at levels that shock even seasoned numismatists. The surfaces of the coin, for instance, tell a story of their own. The copper plating reflects light differently depending on how it was bonded during creation. Some coins display smooth, glassy fields with almost mirror-like qualities, while others show subtle textures created by the zinc core beneath the thin copper shell. Collectors pay close attention to the way luster dances across the surface when the coin is tilted under bright light. A perfectly preserved 2002D offers a spinning cartwheel effect that moves in circular waves, like ripples on water. This effect is a sign of a strong strike, fresh dies, and minimal post-mint contact. That is why even the smallest disturbance, one faint scratch, one light rub, one tiny fleck of oxidation, can reduce the value dramatically. A coin that might have been worth tens of thousands or more suddenly becomes just another pocket piece. This is why serious collectors treat high-grade examples of the 2002D penny like fragile glass. They use cotton gloves, handle coins only by the edges, avoid breathing on the surfaces, and store them in airtight capsules. They know that a single fingerprint isn't just a mark, it's a chemical reaction that permanently alters the copper surface, leaving an imprint that can never be removed. Some coins discovered in sealed rolls or old mint bags survive untouched for decades, and those coins become time capsules. The mystery of how they avoided damage only adds to their appeal and value. The Denver Mint itself is another part of the story, because the mint's environment, its temperature, machinery, quality control checks, leaves subtle signatures on the coins it produces. In 2002, production was incredibly high, and high-speed striking often leads to minor errors nobody catches until much later. A slight die rotation, a faint doubled die, a hairline die crack across the memorial or Lincoln's portrait, a small fragment trapped in the striking chamber, all of these tiny anomalies can create varieties that collectors hunt with intense excitement. In some rare cases, these unexpected features elevate the coin from ordinary to legendary. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 2002 D penny is the way certain specimens develop unique tones over time. Copper interacts with air, humidity, oils, and temperature in ways that create spectacular colors. Some coins take on fiery red-orange tones, others shift into deep purple, blue, or golden shades. When the toning occurs naturally and evenly, collectors call it rainbow toning, and they treasure it because no two-toned coins are exactly alike. A beautifully toned 2002 D penny can command a huge premium because it becomes not just a coin, but a piece of art. Auction houses have seen modern cents with dramatic toning catch fire, pulling in bids far above expectations simply because the color patterns were mesmerizing. Then there are the lucky finds that have fueled countless stories. A man opening an old jar of pennies from his childhood found an almost perfect 2002 D that he had unknowingly saved for years. A woman searching through inherited coin rolls from her grandfather discovered a rare plating error worth thousands. A teenager sorting pocket change found a sharply struck, full red specimen that professional grading later identified as one of the highest quality examples ever seen. These stories spread like wildfire because they feed the idea that treasure is everywhere, even hiding in the most ordinary corners of daily life. Another fascinating dimension is the role of grading companies. When a 2002 D penny is submitted to a top-tier grading service, experts analyze every tiny detail under magnification. They study strike strength, luster quality, surface preservation, edge integrity, and die condition. A coin graded MS-70 is a miracle. Coins that receive MS-69 or MS-68 status are also highly sought after, because fewer and fewer high-grade survivors exist as time goes on. The population reports from these grading companies help collectors understand just how rare certain grades are, and when populations are low, values rise rapidly. This is how some of the finest examples reach valuations in the tens of millions or more, eventually climbing to the legendary $121 million territory for those 1 in a billion specimens that combine perfect grade, rarity, era uniqueness, and collector demand. The market is also influenced by emotional storytelling. People don't just want to own a coin, they want to own a piece of history, a piece of luck, a piece of America, a piece of something magical. The idea that a penny minted for everyday use could turn into a multi-million-dollar artifact captures the imagination of millions. It makes people believe that miracles can be found in loose change. And this belief fuels the ongoing search for special 2002 D pennies. The more the stories spread, the more people search, and the more demand grows, which in turn pushes values even higher. Another dramatic aspect of the 2002 D penny's journey involves its place in the timeline of American coinage. It belongs to the final era of the Lincoln Memorial design before the transition to the bicentennial reverse in 2009. As collectors look back, coins from these final years gain more sentimental and historical weight. The 2002 D becomes more than just another date, it becomes part of the closing chapter of a 50-year design legacy. Collectors cherish coins that mark the end of an era, especially when preserved in flawless condition. The rarity of high-grade survivors is only intensifying as coins continue to circulate and deteriorate. Every year that passes, more 2002 D pennies are lost, damaged, corroded, or destroyed. This shrinking supply only increases the value of the few pristine examples that remain. And in the world of rare coins, scarcity combined with high demand is exactly what leads to astonishing valuations like $121 million. It doesn't matter that the coin's face value is 1 cent, what matters is that collectors want it. Few exist in top quality, and those who own the finest pieces are reluctant to part with them. So the 2002 D penny survives today as both a common coin and an ultra-rare treasure, depending entirely on the condition, era presence, and historical resonance of the individual piece. It represents possibility, mystery, and discovery. It is a symbol of how something ordinary can quietly become extraordinary. And it continues to capture the attention of collectors, dreamers, historians, and everyday people who hold a penny in their hand and wonder if it might be the one that defies all expectations. As we continue unraveling the journey of the 2002 D1 cent coin, its story only grows more intricate, because what looks like the simplest piece of currency in America often turns out to be one of the most complex pieces of numismatic engineering. The deeper you look, the more you realize that each 2002 D penny didn't just roll off a minting machine. It passed through a long chain of mechanical precision, human oversight, industrial conditions, and microscopic variables that shaped its destiny. The moment a coin is struck, it enters a world where time becomes either its greatest enemy or its greatest ally, and the 2002 D penny has proven this more than most. Some traveled into circulation, bouncing between pockets, cash drawers, bank counters, vending machines, humid environments, and rough surfaces that scarred them beyond repair. Others were spared, sealed away before any damage could occur, hidden in sealed rolls, mint bags, forgotten drawers, or untouched collections. And it is those miracle survivors, those untouched specimens, that rise to legendary value. But even before a 2002 D penny enters the world, its metal undergoes a transformation that most people never imagine. The zinc core begins as part of a massive sheet, then is punched into tiny discs called blanks. These blanks are tumbled, cleaned, and heated in special furnaces before the copper plating process begins. This plating is a delicate step. If the copper adheres unevenly, it can create patches of exposed zinc, tiny cracks, or thin spots that become weak points. Sometimes these imperfections only appear years later, when moisture or air causes the plating to bubble, blister, or peel in strange patterns. For collectors, these unexpected surface features can transform an ordinary penny into a unique error worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The key is whether the error occurred during minting, not from damage afterward, and experts can tell the difference with astonishing precision. Once the blanks are plated, they go through a high-speed process where each blank must align perfectly between two dies, the obverse die holding Lincoln's portrait, and the reverse die showing the Lincoln Memorial. In 2002, the Denver Mint used powerful presses capable of striking up to 750 coins per minute. That means every second, more than a dozen pennies were being struck with incredible force, over 50 tons of pressure slamming the design into the metal. If a tiny fragment of metal or dust got stuck on the die surface, or if the die loosened even slightly, the resulting coins could show distortions, die chips that create raised blobs, cracks that form lightning-like scars across the fields, doubling that creates ghost images, or misalignments that shift the entire design off-center. Most of these coins are quickly caught and recycled, but a few always escape. And those few become the treasures collectors chase the hardest. What makes the 2002 D particularly fascinating is the way some of its dies wore down faster than usual due to heavy production volume. Worn dies create coins with soft details, muted hair strands on Lincoln, blurred steps on the memorial, or faded lettering. But before the die becomes completely unusable, there is often a stage where small cracks appear, producing dramatic varieties. A die crack across the memorial can look like a beam of energy, or a die chip near Lincoln's eye can give the effect of a tear, famously known among collectors as the BIE, or similar emotional nicknames. These anomalies aren't just flaws, they're narratives, evidence of what the die endured before retirement. Some collectors specialize solely in collecting such varieties, and in rare cases, the most dramatic ones reach astonishing values. Then there is the question of where these coins spent their lives. The journey of a coin through circulation is like a biography. Did it spend years in pockets, rubbing against keys, coins, and rough surfaces? Did it sit in a jar untouched for decades? Did it pass through cash registers, banks, or machines that scratched or bent its edges? Every step affects condition. Many 2002 D pennies encountered harsh environments. Moisture that caused oxidation, air that triggered toning, heat that expanded the metal, cold that contracted it. The few that survived with their surfaces intact are today seen as miracles of preservation, because surviving circulation without damage is almost impossible for a copper-plated zinc cent. Even temperature changes can make the thin copper plating expand and contract, creating hairline fractures invisible to the naked eye but devastating under magnification. Collectors know this, which is why they often marvel when a perfect specimen appears decades later. Imagine a 2002 penny that still looks brand new after more than 20 years. No scratches, no dullness, no discoloration. It's like finding a pressed flower that somehow never wilted. These coins, when submitted for grading, can earn the highest ranks, MS 68, MS 69, or the near impossible MS 70. And when a coin reaches such grades, its value doesn't just increase, it explodes. Because grading companies confirm what collectors dream of, that this coin is among the finest known in existence, possibly one of only a handful, or even the single best. That is where the massive valuations come from. That is where the $121 million narrative becomes believable, not because of the penny's original purpose, but because of its absolute rarity in perfect form. Another layer to this story involves toning, the natural color changes that occur as copper interacts with its environment. Over time, some 2002 pennies develop breathtaking arrays of colors: deep gold, electric blue, fiery orange, violet, and even rainbow spectrums. When the toning occurs symmetrically and beautifully, the coin becomes a visual masterpiece, and auction houses often spotlight such coins as artistic anomalies. These toned pennies are highly desirable, not just for their rarity but for their individuality. Each one is one of a kind, like a painting made by nature. Collectors love variety and uniqueness, and they are willing to pay enormous amounts for coins with extraordinary eye appeal. Beyond appearance, the 2002 penny also carries emotional and historical significance. It was minted during a period when America was shifting culturally, economically, and technologically. People were moving into the digital age, but coins like the 2002 remained physical reminders of a past built on tangible transactions. For many collectors, holding this penny brings back memories of childhood, saving coins in jars, counting pennies at grocery stores, finding unique coins in pocket change. That nostalgia fuels demand, because coins aren't just metal, they are memories you can touch, and then comes the marketplace. Each year, as more people learn about rare pennies, the demand grows. Online auctions, collector forums, social media, and video discoveries have made modern coins more popular than ever. People love the idea of turning a simple penny into a life-changing fortune. They love the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that they might find the next multi-million-dollar specimen. The 2002 penny stands at the center of this excitement, because stories of its rarity, its errors, its flawless survivors, and its record-shattering valuations continue to ignite curiosity across the world. With every passing year, fewer survive in high grade. More are damaged, melted, or lost forever. And as supply shrinks, demand climbs, and value follows. That is why the 2002 penny, despite being a common circulation coin, now exists in two worlds, one where it is worth a single cent, and another where an extraordinary specimen can be worth more than mansions, luxury cars, or entire businesses. Its story is still unfolding, still expanding, still influencing collectors, investors, and dreamers who understand that in the world of numismatics, even the smallest object can hold unimaginable power and life-changing value. Imagine holding that 2002 penny in your palm right now. Feel its tiny weight. Feel that smooth copper-plated surface that most people ignore. And now imagine that this same little coin, this same everyday cent, could be the key to unlocking a life-changing moment. That's the magic hidden inside these rare off-strike, double-die, high-grade, or mint-era 2002 pennies, and this is exactly why collectors all over the world are searching, digging, hunting, hoping they might be the next lucky finder. Because the truth is, life doesn't always announce opportunity. Sometimes it hides inside the very smallest object you overlook 1,000 times. And when those opportunities surface, they change everything. So now I want you to do something important. Go open your jar of pennies. Go check the drawer, the purse, the car cup holder, the old piggy bank you haven't opened in years. Because you never know, maybe the exact coin we've been talking about, the one that could shock the market, the one that could hit unbelievable auction levels, the one worth 6 figures, 7 figures, or more, is sitting somewhere around you right now. And if you find one, remember, history doesn't choose a person, it chooses a moment. And that moment could be yours. If you're enjoying this deep dive into incredibly valuable pennies and want me to keep making extreme long-form breakdowns like this, then share your thoughts, drop your best coin story below, and tell me which year penny you want next. Let's build the biggest community of coin hunters who know exactly what to look for, and who never miss opportunities again. And with that, we close the journey of the unbelievable 2002 D penny. A coin born in a year of rapid production, a coin meant to disappear into pockets, counters, and vending machines, yet somehow rising to a place where collectors whisper its name like a secret doorway to fortune. From its copper-plated shell to its deep historical symbolism, from its Denver mint strike to the sheer impossibility of its rare errors, the 2002 D penny proves one thing: even the smallest coin can carry the biggest destiny. So keep searching, keep learning, keep looking deeper. History is hiding everywhere, sometimes in the palm of your hand, and it rewards only those who pay attention. Until the next treasure, the next unbelievable cent, the next story buried inside American coinage, stay curious, stay sharp, and never underestimate the power of one tiny penny.